Hello everybody, welcome back to the Crazy White channel. Today we are reviewing an artist I have not reviewed before, Dex. I have been very familiar with Dex as a content creator, as an icon, as a legend in the scene. I have known Dex very well. I've seen his name pretty frequently. Uh, Safe to say he is a huge pillar of like our little underground scene. You know, he's part of Signet. He was Loveless. You know, all that with Sunflowers, Never Made It Home, all of them. 7 a.m. Those are the people that you'll see his name familiarized with. That being said, out of those four, out of Signet, out of Loveless, Dex is, I would say, the most wild card out of them. His style is very different from the other four, and every album that I've heard by Dex has been a different style, a different idea, and this album, Bystander, is no different. While I am aware of Dex, I am not too familiar with his music. I will be completely honest. I listened to Dearly Departing, and that was beautiful. Love that project. Didn't review it. I listened to it before I even like did these album reviews, but it was a very, very good album. I really, really liked it. It inspired my Oceans album quite a bit. It had a huge hand in that. Other than that, I've not been too invested in Dex's work. I really don't listen to his singles. I haven't checked out some of his other projects, but I am familiar with him through seeing his name and listening to features. Anyways, enough about the backstory. Let's get into the review of Bystander. As always, I'm going to start with an overview of the project, and then I'm going to give the score, my favorite, least favorite tracks, and then I'll do an individual track breakdown if you'd like to stay for that. If not, then I'll see you after the end of the overview. But anyways, let's get into the review. What impresses me most about this project is how well Dex can portray his ideas and feelings so well through just the sound design. Dex's lyrics and his vocals are phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. You feel the story he's trying to tell just through the instrumentation. It's honestly really powerful. Almost the entire album is self-produced by Dex himself. He has some co-production sprinkled throughout, but for the most part, the entire thing is produced by Dex. You can really hear like the individualism portrayed through his instrumentals. There's not a lot that sounds like this. While you can pick influences, nothing quite sounds the way that this album sounds. And I feel like the instrumentals speak for themselves on the tracks. There are some times throughout the project where the vocals take a backseat, and I don't even mind it, despite loving his vocals. And that being said, the vocals are nothing to scoff at. I mean, the melodies that Dex hits are very unique. There are some rhythms that he finds with his vocals, some melodies that he taps into that I haven't heard from a lot of artists before. There are points where I'm asking myself, is he even in key? Like, genuinely? But it doesn't phase my enjoyment of the track. Almost like a Lil Peep. Not saying that this is anything like Lil Peep, it's not, but there are times when Lil Peep was not in key, and he still sounds good. Like, that's kind of how Dex is for me, but I do think Dex is a little more in key. There is very little fluff on the track list. One thing that Music by Playboi Carti made me realize is that my personal enjoyment of a record can be taken down so much by having filler on the track list. There is no filler on this album. If any, very little. Maybe some songs go on a little longer than they should. But other than that, everything here speaks for itself and it portrays an overall narrative. While the tracks cover individual feelings, individual thoughts, it all builds to this idea of social anxiety. Feeling like you're left out. Feeling like you're the reason you're left out of things because of your social anxiety. I really like that. Being a bystander, overlooking from the sidelines. I like that. And almost blaming yourself for it. But recognizing the traumas that cause it. I love that. This album portrays that idea perfectly. That's something that's incredibly relatable to me and several people in my life. A lot of these instrumentals are surprisingly harsh. I usually am used to these more softer tones in Dex's music, you know? The closest we get to these harsher melodies and his older music that I know of is the more Midwest emo stuff. You don't really get this EDM punch like you're getting throughout this project. And it's such a nice juxtaposition because his vocals are really soft throughout most of the project. There's very little shouting, there's very little screaming, very little pushing of the vocals throughout the project. And it's kind of nice having these harsher instrumentals with these softer vocals. It almost feels like you want to speak out your feelings, but the room around you keeps shutting you out. I feel like that's very nice, especially with how bouncy these instrumentals are. You know, it sounds like there's a good time just around the corner, but you're still feeling melancholic. You're still a bystander overlooking the excitement. I like that. I think that this album was structured perfectly. I genuinely believe that any artist who struggles with building a cohesive project needs to analyze this album as a rubric. This album, in my opinion, Bystander by Dex, incredible. Genuinely incredible. My favorite tracks were Bystander, Prioritizing Change, 10 Over Again. Those are my 3 favorites. I only have one track I was not feeling, and that song was Life Insurance. Other than that, the entire track list is really solid. I'm not in love with everything here, but I do think almost every single thing here has a reason, has a meaning, is important to the overall narrative. That being said, I'm going to give this album an 8 out of 10. If you have not listened to the project, I would recommend doing so before we get into these individual tracks, but if you have listened to it, stay for the ride, hear my thoughts, see what I think of the individual songs, and I'll see if you agree, if you're feeling the same way about them. Bystander, the title track of the album and also the opener, incredible. Perfect as an intro. The instrumental is really digital and bouncy, which was surprising to me. Before this, I'm used to Dex being on guitars, and this is a very bouncy, almost EDM track. The vocals are delicate, but they're mixed incredibly well. For the first 2/3 of the track, it's kind of just building throughout vocal layers and instrumentation alike. It kind of takes a while before that real punch comes in, but once that punch comes in, it is super nice. I love the touch of the vocals starting out kind of dry, but getting wetter throughout the track. That was something that I really liked, especially with the addition of the layers, adding more reverb and more room space. Super nice. My favorite touch of the instrumentation is that while most of the beat is very digital, there's a bass layer that is either synthesized from a live bass guitar or it's real. And it is so nice. I love that inclusion. I think it's so cool to have that live sounding instrumentation mixed in with this more electronic sound. I think that's really cool. It's incredible blend of genre in my opinion. This song, it portrays the idea of being disappointed in the lack of progress you've made and feeling socially distant from others, but you come to terms with the fact that you kind of caused it by your own faults and how shy you are. And I like that. Next up we have Ache. Dex is a phenomenal engineer. Let me say that. Instrumentation, vocal-wise, he is so good with his engineering. I know that from listening to so many artists who have their songs engineered by Dex. Ache is a perfect portrayal of that. The way his vocals sound pushed in the performance but come across as soft in the mixing is beautiful. You know, with this harsh bass in the beat, with the incredible pumping, with the loudness of the instrumentation, but keeping his vocals soft while shouting, it's so nice. It almost represents the idea of being in pain and asking for help, but going unheard, and I like that. I'm going to skip tracks here and there. I forgot to say that, but we're gonna skip over Cutscene. It was okay, fills its place, but I don't really want to get into, like, it's not crazy. I don't need to set aside time for it. So we're gonna go into Reach. The lyrics portray a feeling of being wronged or hurt in a way, but feeling a fear of explaining it to others and fear of hurting them too. So far, this is my favorite vocal performance on the project. Genuinely. The layering, incredible as always. Dex knows how to create these perfect harmonies, and it shows with this track. The instrumental, genuinely, has nothing unique or special going for it, but I do like it. It is still pretty, but it's nothing new. It's nothing that you're not getting from these other tracks in terms of the instrumentation, but the vocals, so solid. Love the lyrics of the track. Next up, we have really the only song I wasn't feeling too fond of, which is Life Insurance. I appreciate the lyricism of this track, but the runtime, in my opinion, is unwarranted. There's little to no progression with the track. For a 5-minute song, I'm really not a fan of acoustic songs in general. But for a 5-minute song, you want a little more to it. And while the drums do come in very late into the track, they sound kind of dry and simplistic. I'm not crazy about the overall sound of them. The main guitar melody is nice, and I like the bassy background layer, but the additional melodies are kind of Like, this song, it falters not due to the vocals in any means, but I'm not crazy about the instrumentations. I'm just not a big fan of the soundscape of this track, and for most of the runtime, I find myself to be bored. I do think that a lot of people could enjoy this track, but it is not for me. Next up, we have Even If You Can't See Me. The instrumental of this track reminds me a lot of Quadeca, and that is a very good thing. I haven't talked about Quadeca much on my channel, but he is my favorite artist of all time. So, the instrumental reminding me of that is a huge compliment. I love the bounce that this song has, despite not having any vocals at all. There's a lot of emotion through this track in just the melodies. The guitar that comes in about halfway through the track feels representative of what the vocals would express, especially with the title, Even If You Can't See Me. The guitar fading out with every major progression is an incredible inclusion. You feel a buildup of the guitar, and then it kind of putters out, and then it comes back. It gives a similar feeling of when you stop talking because you realize nobody's paying attention. I typically can't find an actual expression or emotional connection to a song with no vocals, but this genuinely impressed me so much. Having a song with no vocals that has this much of a punch that makes me connect this much to it, Dex, you're a fucking visionary. Just let me say that. You're a visionary, man. The next song I want to talk about is Prioritizing Change. The drop was very unexpected. I love the layering of the vocals on this song, and the switch up of the drums after the first drop is just incredible. I love the attention to detail with the drums here. The song leaves no room to be bored. There's constant melodic changes and drum flips, and while Dex's vocal structure stays very samey throughout the track, other than the bridges, the dramatic instrumental flipping constantly is so nice with it. This fits the theme of the track well because the instrumental represents a change of the individual, but the vocals stay the same, which helps hold to one's perceived character. I really like that. Wanting to change, seeing a reflection of yourself through the instrumental, but feeling like you can only stay the same at times. I love this track. I genuinely do. That's why it's one of my favorites. Next, we have 10 Over Again. The vocals on this track are incredibly beautiful. I love the lighter drop on this track. The instrumental is incredibly calming, but it's nowhere near boring in my opinion. The track is short and sweet. I love it that way. It's probably my favorite vocal performance of the entire album. I really like this song. And the last song, Antihistamine. This track perfectly pays forward what was set from the opener. The live sounding instrumentation is much more present and flips the idea of most of the beats on this album very well. The feature fits the track very well, but in my opinion, Dex was the highlight. I think that it could have been a solo track, but I don't mind the feature at all. I love the shouting background layers that Dex provides at points in this track. It's so nice to hear the shouting in the background, the full force emotional presence. This was just as great of a closer as the opener was great, and it leaves you wanting more, but not because you're unfulfilled, but because you just don't want it to end. This was an amazing closer. I really enjoy this track. So those are my thoughts on the album. I hope you enjoyed it. If Dex is watching this, man, I was so impressed by this. What you set from Dearly Departing was great, but I would have never expected this much progression in your sound. This, awesome, dude. Awesome. Probably my favorite album of the year so far. I know that's crazy to say, but genuinely, this is really solid, man. So, thank you for watching. I hope to do more videos soon. I'm kind of going on a hiatus with my live streams, so hopefully we'll get more, just me and the screen content, these edited album reviews, discussions, that kind of stuff. I'm looking forward to doing more of this because I do really like it. So, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.